So when I graduated, I went to Southampton. Broadcast journalism was my degree. I graduated. You're like, right, perfect, good. Now I'm ready to go. I can go and be a journalist now. Oh my God, that is really, really hard. There you go. That was my first foot in the door, at this shitty TV channel, but it was brilliant experience for me because I got to do everything. And then I would present a show called Saints Alive, which was kind of my baby. We would go to training every week and interview the players, and that was brilliant. That was a great taste and a good learning curve for me, kind of starting off as broadcasting in sport properly. If you've got an opportunity, damn right, you better take it and do your best at it, because otherwise someone's going to come along and take it from you. The TV station went bankrupt, and then for like 2 or 3 years, I'm still chasing my tail, trying to get work. So you're sending off your show reels to all this sort of stuff. I had a screen test at Sky. They didn't like me. There were other screen tests. I went to QVC, Bid Up TV, all this sort of shite. I remember I went into the casting, and when you go out of one of these things, if it went well or not, and it went well. I remember it was the day after Liverpool came from behind to beat Milan in Istanbul in the 2005 final. We had to do a recap of that. This is like July, hot Madrid, and we were all like young, single. I was 25 at the time, so it was incredible. So you've got living in a foreign city, which is amazing, and then you're doing your dream job. There I am, then every week, going to the Bernabeu, which is just an unbelievable stadium, 90,000 people. I'm sat on the halfway line commentating these games. Come on. ESPN got in contact, and they liked some of the stuff that I was doing, and they brought me over here, and then I did a casting. Here. I had to do a commentary and present a show, and I went back to Spain, and then they offered me the package to move over to America.
Right, hello and welcome back to the Back with a Man podcast. I'm your host, Charlie Walden, obviously co-host Joe Mcglade, and today I've got a very special guest, ESPN FC 7 Days a Week host, Dan Thomas. Dan, thank you for joining me. Appreciate it.
No problem, mate. No worries.
First question I want to ask then off the bat is, obviously you've been doing broadcast journalism for many years now. When did you know you wanted to do this, and when did you get started in it?
Oh, bloody hell, mate. Always. I played football when I was younger, and it quickly dawned upon me that I wasn't very good at it, or certainly not good enough to get anywhere near a professional level. So I always thought, right, next best thing is kind of get into broadcasting and tell people how they should be playing football. That seems to make complete sense. And we are talking like 6 or 7. It is what I've just always wanted to do, absolutely forever. Like there's never been anything else that has been anywhere near with regards to ambition for a career. So when I was at year 9 at school, we got to do work experience. So I did a week at the local newspaper and then a week at the local radio station, which was BBC Radio Cornwall. And that week at the radio just completely and utterly transfixed me on becoming a broadcast journalist. So at the end of that week, I said, look, I want to come back. I want to be able to do more stuff here. And they said, well, they're always looking for people to volunteer on the sports show. To remember, this is pre-internet. So I had to ring around all the local football grounds to get all the local results. And it wasn't just the football grounds, it was local pubs that the teams would go and drink up to afterwards. No, we don't drink there anymore, my love. He drinks down there. No, they're all barred from here because they got all, and you're trying to chase all these football scores around. And then we'd compile them. So it'd be James Alexander-Arnold who would do all the top leagues, and then it would come to me who would do all the lower leagues in Cornwall. It was great. It was a fantastic experience to kick things off, and as I say, it just kind of gave me that taste to try and get into professional broadcasting.
It's interesting because I sort of started my we could say journey in year 9 as well. I created my own little media site for Chesterfield, where I'm from, and started doing interviews and stuff, and I got work experience at a radio station also. So that's pretty interesting. So it was sort of a thing that you wanted to stay in football, did you? Obviously, you said you wasn't as good as football, but you wanted to stay in football and sort of report that as well.
Yeah, exactly. Or sport in general. I used to do the cricket as well. So when I was still at the BBC, I'd go and do a couple of cricket games and stuff like that. I quite enjoyed that experience. But yeah, most definitely football was my main focus. And then I went on hospital radio as well. I had my own show there when I was like probably 16 to 18. I'd have my own show there, which was all kind of like if you want to get into broadcasting, this is what you need to do. You need to get work experience. You need to have your show on hospital radio. And I was kind of ticking those boxes from like careers that I'd seen kind of paved before.
How important
do you know, with you doing it at a young age, have you always been confident at talking to people?
Yeah, I suppose so. It just kind of it came naturally. I enjoyed it. I like the buzz of being live, being in front of a microphone. I think it's one of those things, certainly from seeing people over the years, I think you either kind of have it or you don't have it. And if you don't have it, I think it's very difficult to develop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How important do you feel it is to obviously get, like you're saying, a lot of work experience, but also not minding when you're at such a young age that it be volunteer, because that really shows a passion, I feel, for your subject when you're younger, that you actually are interested when you're doing it for free, per se.
It's a tricky situation, isn't it? Because I think it's very easy to say, go out, get as much experience as possible, go and volunteer, go and make the tea, go and do the coffee, like I did. But I was fortunate in that my situation, my family supported me. It meant that I didn't have to go out and work at weekends or support the family. So I think I'm very aware, certainly over the years, how fortunate I was in that position, in that I had that opportunity to go out and do volunteer work in a field that I wanted to, as opposed to having to work to help my family and their financial situation, if that makes sense. So I'm always very, very aware of speaking to people that everybody has got individual pressures on them, because obviously, first and main piece of advice I give to people is go out and get experience. And the best thing about that isn't necessarily the stuff that you're doing, but it's the people that you're meeting. And it's the people that you're meeting what will then build bridges in the future to hopefully opening doors to you within the industry.
Did you face sort of any hurdles, per se, because of your age, like getting opportunities yourself? Because I know sometimes when we try and apply for press boxes, most of the time we probably get in when I was younger, but sometimes I face hurdles on my age. Did you ever face like sort of hurdles yourself with your age and getting opportunities, per se?
Oh man, there are hurdles left, right, and centre. The big ones are the fact that obviously you have no when I graduated, I went to Southampton. Broadcast journalism was my degree. I graduated. You're like, right, perfect, good. Now I'm ready to go. I can go and be a journalist now. Oh my God, that is really, really hard, because everyone's like, well, what experience you have? Well, I read the football scores when I was 16, 18. Well, what are you doing now? Well, I need somebody to give me a chance now, because otherwise I don't have the experience. How am I supposed to get experience without anybody giving me it? And that's so tough. And it's tough for everybody who's coming out with a media degree, because there's no set path. It's not like, right, this is what you do, then you do that, and then you're going to get a little local job, and then you go national, and then you go international, and boom, there you go, you're all sorted. There's nothing like that. Everybody's journey is completely different. So it's tough, isn't it? I remember I was working, so I worked for Ladbrokes during uni, and when I graduated as well, because I just wasn't getting any work. And I had a little bit of TV work, and I applied for a job at Ladbrokes, like the in-house Ladbrokes TV kind of station, and I got nothing back. I'm like, I've worked there for 5 years. I've got a broadcast journalist. What more do you want? But it's just one of those things that it's very difficult, and you know it, guys, just to get that foot in the door to try and get on the first run of the ladder to work your way up.
How do you sort of like stand out from everybody else with the sort of degree and stuff? Everybody else will have experience and stuff. How do you like sort of stand out from that?
You don't. It's luck. I think, to be honest, it really is. It's such a nepotistic industry. So my first job in TV came, let's think, I graduated in the summer of 2001. So at the start of 2002, there was a little crappy local TV station. So you got like your local BBC networks, and this person decided they wanted to go real specific. So it was Southampton TV, only focusing on Southampton, kind of taking the American model that we have over here. So it would cover things like lost dogs, lost cats. It was pretty much local radio on TV. And a friend of mine who graduated at the same time as me, she got a job as a broadcast journalist right off the bat when it first opened. But she hated it. She didn't like the experience at all. And then they asked if she knew anybody who was also qualified in like sport as well, and she recommended me, and I went to the casting, and kind of there you go. That was my first foot in the door, at this shitty TV channel, but it was brilliant experience for me because I got to do everything, and then I would present a show called Saints Alive, which was kind of my baby. And then we would go to training every week and interview the players. And that was brilliant. That was a great taste and a good learning curve for me, kind of starting off as broadcasting in sport properly.
Just before I move on to Saints Alive quickly, that sounds something similar to what I actually do with Spire Media and stuff, like interviewing players and doing reports and stuff, features and stuff like that. Just before I move on to that, with the BBC Radio Cornwall, what would you say the biggest thing you learnt there, and how much of an impact did it have on your career going forward?
So Radio Cornwall or Saints Alive? Which one?
Radio Cornwall first.
Okay, so that's a good question, actually. What did I learn there? I learned that you have to work really hard because there's so many. So I would see so many other people come and do similar things to me with regards to want work experience, want this and that, and then do it for a couple of weeks and never come back. And I think that is what was instilled to me there, that I would go every weekend, no matter what was going on, no matter how hungover I was, because I wanted to grasp that opportunity. And and that's the problem with this industry, that if you don't take it, there's 100 people waiting outside who would come in and be more than grateful to do what you're doing. So I think that was kind of the insight, certainly, definitely when I was younger, that if you got an opportunity, damn right, you better take it and do your best at it, because otherwise someone's going to come along and take it from you.
What was it like working at the BBC? You was only pretty young when you joined there. The BBC was still pretty big back then.
It was great. Yeah, it was really great. My boss was Stuart Gardner, who is now the voice of Manchester United TV. So he does all the play-by-play. And it was just that, like, I was 16. I was just buzzing just for this live broadcast experience. And then there you are on the air talking away. It was fun. Like, my gran would listen every week, bless her, to like 4 hours of me popping in and out with all the latest scores. It was such a fun time. I don't think I actually realized how lucky I was to have that opportunity at that time. And it was only really, I'll tell you what, when I was in Southampton, I was trying to get in at the BBC there when I was at uni, just to get something going, and there was just nothing. Just doors closing in front of me at every step. And I suppose because Radio Cornwall fell so easily to me, I thought that's kind of how it would work going forward, but no, it certainly didn't.
When did sort of like Saints Alive sort of take off when you first got going? How did it sort of take off?
So that was when I was at Southampton TV. So I would do the news. I'd work as a news Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and then I would do Saints Alive on the Thursday and Friday. I was terrible at the news, by the way. Like, I had to cover murders and rapes and all this sort of horrible, intense stuff, and it just wasn't. That made me realise 100% that news definitely wasn't my thing. Then Thursday and Friday, it was brilliant. So we go to training. It was Gordon Strachan at the time, who was kind of this little hard-nosed manager who hated the media. So that was great for me to cut my teeth. Kind of, if you're going to have some sort of baptism of fire, Gordon Strachan's great, because if you don't know your shit, he is going to get you bad and humiliate you, as I've seen him do many times in front of everybody else. So that was fantastic for me. And that was the Thursday, and the Friday it was the training. I was chatting to old players, and then we go to the games and then do the post-match interviews, and it would all come together in this weekly show. Yeah, that was great fun. They were good times.
Do you ever sort of get like a sort of fan in you, like, oh my God, I'm speaking to the manager, I'm speaking to the players here, like, what is happening? Do you ever get that sort of fan in you when you was that age?
Yeah, that was like what I was 20, 21, 22. So it was great. It was just great to be having that sort of opportunity, especially as you've seen them playing. It's so surreal, isn't it? You see them playing on the pitch, and you see them on TV. You kind of put them on this pedestal, and then you're speaking to them in real life. It's all very random. But with regards to my career, that was great for knowing what sort of questions to ask, what not to ask, making sure that you knew how to deal with different players, different managers. So that was a great learning curve as well.
That was one of the biggest things you would say in your career that maybe stood out to employers to say you've done this, you've been interviewing players, you've basically, not say ran a football club media, but you've basically covered a football club all independently.
Yes. Yeah, that was great. That was really good. But even then, even after that, so then the TV station went bankrupt, and then for like 2 or 3 years, I'm still chasing my tail, trying to get work. So you're sending off your show reels to all this sort of stuff. I had a screen test at Sky. They didn't like me. There were other screen tests. I went to QVC, Bid Up TV, all this sort of shite, I remember. But fortunately, you know, it's kind of, you just got to keep going. These castings are a horrible experience, and you just got to tell yourself, right, you know, it wasn't right that time. You just got to keep going back.
How do
So,
we go on, John?
how did the Real Madrid TV job come about?
So that was advertised in the media segment of The Guardian. I don't know if they still do that now. That was in 2005, yeah. A mate of mine rang me up and said, have you seen this? I said, no. And I was working at the time as an editor of this magazine. And I was just horrible at this job because I'm not a particularly good writer. I didn't enjoy it. It was a lot of faff, a lot of dealing with people that I had no interest in dealing with. And then, yeah, fortunately, a mate of mine rang me up and said, Dan, you know, you should go for this. And then I went to London for a casting, and there was a lot of people. Like they received, I think they received over like 1,000 CVs, and I think they cast like 100 people. From just blowing my own trumpet here. And then I went into the casting, and you know when you go out of one of these things if it went well or not, and it went well. I remember it was the day after Liverpool came from behind to beat Milan in Istanbul in the 2005 final. We had to do a recap of that. We had to talk a little bit about our experience. And one thing that I did do, which I would recommend everyone to do, is that they sent me a script beforehand, and I learnt it verbatim. Like I completely memorized the script. And that was something that they were impressed with that others hadn't done. And the reason, obviously, they're impressed with that is because it shows a commitment. It shows that you really want this kind of job going forward. And that was the casting in London, and they called me up and offered me the job to move to Madrid.
What was that like? Obviously going from an editor of a magazine, then going to work with Real Madrid TV as in Madrid.
It was fantastic. It was so good. There was basically a Spanish version of Real Madrid TV, and their plan was to have this English international version. So there was 6 of us who were kind of as the presenters. We were all like all young, all quite good looking. It was a lot of, so Claire Rourke was there, who was now head of content at Liverpool. Alison Bender was there, who did Sky Sports News, now does stuff with like Piers Morgan in the mornings. Charlie Webster was like an FHM model, was there, and then it was me and a couple of blokes as well. And this is like July, hot Madrid, and we're all like young, single. I was 25 at the time, so it was incredible. So you've got living in a foreign city, which is amazing, and then you're doing your dream job. You got to remember, this is when Real Madrid had like David Beckham, Michael Owen, Luis Figo, Zinedine Zidane, Ronaldo, Roberto Carlos, Raul, Iker Casillas, just an extraordinary list of stars. There I am, then every week going to the Bernabeu. The Bernabeu, which is just this unbelievable stadium, 90,000 people. I'm sat on the halfway line commentating these games.
What was your family's reaction to that?
Sorry, Charlie.
Well, I was living with a girl at the time, and I promised her, you know, that I would come back every month to see her. That lasted 2 weeks because I was just like, this country is fantastic. And I had my son was living in Manchester, and he just moved to Hebden Bridge at the time in South Yorkshire. So I would still fly back and see him every month. So that was like the logistics of living abroad. But that was the only problems I had. Apart from that, it was a pinch me moment. There were so many, like, I remember the first time I was getting makeup, I was like, don't ever take this for granted, because this is a bit special. And it was amazing.
Go on, Joe.
What was it like from interviewing from them, the players from like Southampton, and then like you said, going to the Galacticos, like David Beckham and that?
It was funny. Yeah, it's true. You go from David Prutton to David Beckham. But to be honest with you, that got old quite quickly, which I don't mean to say in a blasé way, but interviewing players is a lot of hanging around. And because I was working for the club channel, I couldn't really ask anything interesting. It was all very bland, all very vanilla. So in that sense, for someone who I quite enjoy interacting with players and trying to get something from them, that was probably the part of the job I enjoyed the least, which is kind of strange. You think, blimey, heck, you're not really hanging out with the players. That's the thing. You're just kind of hanging around, waiting for them. Well, what do you think of the next game? What happened here? That, great. Okay, move on. Like doing the show that I did and doing the commentary, they were like my real highlights.
What sort of advice and sort of contact did you make over there? Because I can imagine there was many people that over there you did your networks with and stuff.
Yeah, like I made friends there more than network, because I didn't see my future staying in Spain. I always thought I would come back to the UK. I was there for 5 years, and during that time, my Spanish was honestly embarrassingly horrendous. I'd hang out in Irish bars, chat up American girls. Then I got a girlfriend who was fluent in English. So like it was just counterproductive. And do you know what? A Spanish TV channel offered me a job on the premise that I would learn Spanish, and they paid for a tutor and everything. And I just made excuses time after time not to see this tutor, because learning a foreign language is really hard and boring. And I just didn't have that motivation to do it. But no, I made some great, like me and Sid Lowe, who of course, from Football Weekly, and he comes on the ESPN now, the writer for the Guardian. We're really good friends. And all the people I work with at Real Madrid TV, like Kay Murray now, who is working for ESPN. We're all really close, because it was such like a tight knit family environment that we were in when it all started. And it was kind of nice to see how that's continued 15 years later.
Not many people can say they've worked in Madrid as mid-20s as a journalist, can they?
No, especially someone who couldn't speak Spanish. How ridiculous is that? That's the crazy thing about it all. But it was nuts, man. And Madrid doesn't sleep, and you were getting in at 6 a.m, getting up at 7 to go and watch the train, and you live in the life. But boy, we enjoyed it.
What was one of your favourite moments from your time at Madrid?
The commentaries were great. So like some of the big moments, I remember 2008, I think it was, Gonzalo Higuain scored a goal which saw Real Madrid beat Espanyol 4-3. And it was on this incredible run that they were on, where it looked like they were out the title race, and that game was very close to then sealing the title. And then the final game, they came back from behind to beat Mallorca. I remember Reyes scored, Diarra scored, and it was when you work for a club channel, you are so ingrained in every result. Like it takes over. So that was the first trophy, the first La Liga title they'd won since I'd arrived in 2005. So it's like everything coming together, this crescendo of excitement. It was amazing. It was real. That was a very special moment.
You become attached to Roger.
Who was your favourite player you interviewed at Real Madrid TV?
It's a good. I always liked Ruud van Nistelrooy, because he would always give you proper answers. He wouldn't just kind of fob you off. He would actually think about his answers. So he was always someone that I enjoyed speaking to.
Just quickly on that sort of Real Madrid. How then do you go from Real Madrid to ESPN?
That's a good question. So 2000. So I've been there 5 years, and I think you can only work at a club channel for so long before you get a little bit frustrated, in that they didn't put too many restrictions on you, but there are sometimes you want to go, look, the team was shit today, and you want to be able to talk about it properly. But obviously, because the Real Madrid are the ones that are paying you, it's very difficult to then kind of go down that line. So I looked to move on. I went to Sky. I had a casting at Sky, and they didn't like me. And I was like, okay, I'll stay in Spain. That's fine. I don't mind doing this. And then ESPN got in contact, and they liked some of the stuff that I was doing, and they brought me over here. And then I did a casting. Here. I had to do a commentary and present a show. And I went back to Spain, and then they offered me the package to move over to America.
What is it like reporting on football over in America?
It's weird, because it's very similar to what basically our show is everything to do with football. So it's not specifically focusing on MLS or the US men's team. It's focusing on football overall. So it doesn't really change that much of the dynamic. So what did we do yesterday? Yesterday we led with Liverpool losing at home against Brighton. We talked about Neymar and the possibility of him signing a new contract and whether or not that's the right move for him. We talked about Antoine Griezmann starring the Copa del Rey win against Granada. So we kind of cover the big teams and the big talking points.
With a show like you at ESPN FC, so it's easy to stay neutral, isn't it? When you're, like you say, you report on Real Madrid, you sort of like not intentionally, but you sort of become attached. Like when I'm reporting on women's football and I'm doing a specific team every weekend, it's like I sort of get attached, but not intentionally. That's what happens, though, doesn't it?
Oh my God, yeah, completely. You know, when I was in Southampton, I would cover Southampton reserves. I would do Southampton's first team. I would look at Southampton's under 18s. The whole shebang. Like you're just completely immersed and involved with it. And I think that's the way that it should be if you're kind of not the spokesman, but the broadcaster for the club. And then that would go to Real Madrid. So I do Real Madrid first teams. I do Real Madrid Castilla, which was their second team. Just everything about Real Madrid. I knew which player, which foot the player would kick with, who he was married to, how many children you just know everything because you need to, because that's your job, and you know that fans expect that level of knowledge from you.
How do you sort of stay humble? Do you know what I mean? When you've gone from like Real Madrid to ESPN, you work for them sort of two stellar places in your career. How do you sort of stay humble at that point in your career?
Because you know that one mistake and you're screwed. One stupid thing you could say on air or off air or upset someone. My whole premise is just don't muck this up. You know, you've dreamt of doing this since you were 6 years old. You know, this is an absolute dream scenario. So whatever you do, don't muck it up.
What was your sort of first day and sort of week at ESPN like?
Oh man, it was just completely different world. You meet a million different people, managers that you never see again. You've got to go through all the security protocol and basically don't do this, don't look at that, what you're doing there, with this, that, and the other. And of course, you got that whole experience as well of moving from Spain to America. So then you've got to sort out social security. You got a house, you got a car, and then she was my girlfriend. Then we got married in Scotland quickly, so she could come over here with me. And then it's getting her settled, and she gets pregnant. It's babies. It's just chaos. Absolute chaos. It's all very grown up. Like Madrid, it was just me. That's all I had to worry about. Just kind of going out. You know, you go and do the game. You go out. You come in. It'd be brilliant. But then you move over here, and then you have to grow up a little bit.
Do you find yourself more comfortable in America than you did in Madrid?
Yeah, I think overall I do, because I can understand what people are saying, which is very helpful. And also in Madrid, you know, you don't get paid any money. You know, you obviously, none of us get into this career to make any money. But I was paycheck to paycheck, and you know, there's only so much you can live like that without looking to the future and looking to a family and that sort of thing, and helping you out in that way.
It's brilliant ESPN, is it? Because every little sport is being spoke about at ESPN. So even as yourself as a broadcaster, just like cricket or football, like the sports you've been known to, it sort of gives you a chance as well to maybe look into other sports as well, because there's other people in that sector you can network with and learn from and stuff, isn't there?
Yeah, it's fun. Like the international like brand over here. So obviously the domestic is all about like American football, baseball, basketball, hockey. That's your big four. Soccer is a little bit of interest when there's a World Cup on, but they're kind of your four main sports. What we have, which is quite unique over here, is the fact that we don't just broadcast in the US. We broadcast in BT, in the UK, in the Caribbean, in Australia. So we have this international reach. And then obviously our YouTube channel is almost up to, I think, 900,000 subscribers. So that also has kind of an element as well. So our spread goes much beyond just America.
Definitely. It's a question I want to ask you, just from personal experience. I don't know if this ever happens to you. When you're going into an interview, do you still get like really nervous before it, and then when you do it, it's sort of like chill? Because that for me, like before every interview, it's sort of like really, really nervous. Like, well, that's petrified, I would say. But then when I get it, it's sort of just chill. What's your feelings like when you're going into an interview?
but that's a good thing to be, isn't it? That's kind of how you want to. That's why we do the job, because you get that buzz just before, and you're like, right, okay, if I got my questions, I don't want to look like a dick here. Oh, are we kind of good to go? And then, as you say, as the interview goes, then the flow kind of continues.
Well, this question: why do you think you've been at ESPN for so long?
I don't know. It's a good question. They just haven't found anyone better or cheaper yet. I think that's probably the key to it.
And this question:
if you could go back to the UK and do Sky or anything, would you ever do that?
No, I don't think I would now. Only because I don't want to get rejected from them again, and also, if you watch Sky Sports News and things like that, it's very different to what we do, in that it's much more scripted, much more serious. So I think I would find that a much tougher environment, where you're kind of handcuffed on how much you can say, as opposed to our show, which is very organic, very kind of bantery. And I think that's something that is kind of fueled the success of it, and that people can relate to the fact that it's just a bit like talking to your mates, really.
Yeah, such a good laugh. That's what I was going to say. It's like literally, when I watch your show, it's like literally just a mate sitting around a table. Obviously not drinking, but it's like having a beer, just talking about sport and football.
Yeah, and that's genuine, and that's something which I think is key, and I think it's impossible to fake that sort of camaraderie. We've worked together for a long time, most of us, so I think that's developed over the years, kind of the in-jokes about everything. But I think that is that's what people appreciate it from us, and that's kind of what we're always looking to do, is kind of give that reactionary show as if you were down the pub with your mates. It just happens these people have all played the sport before, so it can give slightly different insight.
I think that's why I love American shows, like news shows, so much, is because we all have a laugh and you're all banter with each other. Like, it's much more fun than here in the UK news.
There's like a lot more opinions and stuff, isn't there, on like American news and stuff?
Yeah, I think overall you look at things like, I don't know, if you look at Champions League coverage that BT do and things like that, it's really the only insight that I have. The feed, everything is so serious. Everything is kind of life or death. This is a travesty. This is incredible. This is bad. It's horrible. There isn't much. It isn't very light-hearted, but that's difficult, because if you're bringing in, you've got in the studio Michael Owen, Rio Ferdinand, and then you've got Owen Hargreaves, right? You're all there, but they just come in the studio and then go, and then maybe they see each other next week. Me and the boys, we see each other 4 or 5 times a week. You're chatting all the time, you're texting all the time, so that kind of leads to that sort of the sort of relationship and the rapport that we have, which I think is very difficult to just kind of throw people together. Right, there you go, have a laugh, make it look good.
Will you and Craig Byrne ever get along?
You know what? He's such a grumpy idiot, but he's our grumpy idiot, I suppose. He's great. He's great TV. Like, he's really good TV, because he doesn't hold back. He has no allegiance to anybody, any team, or anything. And I think that's key as to why he's so good at what he does. In that, it's been interesting to see the former Manchester United players, for example, all coming out and defending Ollie because he's a former Manchester United player, as opposed to, I think, if you're a member of the public, I think you just want your punter to give it to you straight and not just necessarily defend their mates.
Yeah. Do you think pundits should be fans of teams, or should leave that sort of neutral?
No, like this weird Gary Neville thing that's going on at the moment, like listen to his commentaries and stuff. I think, for me, it doesn't sit particularly comfortable with me, because I think that as a viewer, you want someone who is unbiased. And I understand that people may have their allegiances, but you kind of feel that you should leave those at the door.
Yeah, definitely. Just on the Premier League, I don't know if you've been following it too much. I think you probably will have, but what do you make of the Premier League this season? It's really close, isn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting. Manchester City are going to win it. I think that's going to be done. The fact that they've done it without Kun Aguero, obviously De Bruyne are out. Gundogan's come in and just been fantastic over the last few weeks. The key, Ruben Dias and John Stones, have developed this brilliant defensive partnership. We all thought Laporte obviously would start alongside Dias, but Stones has come in, recaptures the form. I love Cancelo. He's so fun to watch. So I think Manchester City, barring barring like a nightmare run, I think they should go and win. And then it's interesting because then who's going to finish second? Inevitably, we thought it's going to be Liverpool, but back-to-back defeats at home against Anfield at Anfield. You kind of think, well, maybe they've just run out of steam. Obviously, a lot of injuries for them as well. United are fine, a little bit hot and cold. If Bruno doesn't do much, you wonder which way they're going to go. And Leicester, overall, a great team to watch, but then you lose at home against Leeds. Was it Leeds or Everton? Everton, I can't remember who it was. You just kind of think, what sort of Leicester are going to turn up?
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I think...
And Spurs are terrible. Oh, my God.
Yeah, I remember at the start, everyone were going on about Spurs would win the league, and that's just not happening now.
Well, their thought was, right, if everyone's on board with Mourinho's tactics, then maybe they could just grind out the league in the most boring, predictably fashion. But obviously, Kane's out now. I think they've won 2 of their last 9 matches in the Prem. So you just think, no, we're recording this just before the Chelsea game. And for Chelsea, that was an interesting move, getting rid of Lampard. Yeah. Personally, I think it was the right move. And then Thomas Tuchel coming in.
Just quickly, the last couple of questions from me. It's crazy to see, isn't it, how early in the season a lot of fans were calling for Ollie out and stuff when the results were picking up. And then as soon as he starts rising results to the top of the league, and then the fans love him and stuff, and Ollie at the wheel, isn't it?
Well, that's just fans. Everyone is fickle, and we can all play on that. But I genuinely thought that it was a mistake to keep him on just because there was better managers out there. Now, you could say, if a better manager was in charge, i.e. a Tuchel or Allegri, could he have got more out of this Manchester United side than Solskjaer has got? Now, that's a very difficult, hypothetical argument to have. However, you're in a situation, if you're a United fan, you're saying you're second, you're 3 points off top at the moment. Would you take that under Solskjaer, or would you gamble, roll the dice, and would you have taken a new manager at the start of the season? Most would say, no, look, we're in a title race. We haven't been in a title race since Sir Alex was there. So I think that it's an interesting discussion. But Solskjaer is no saviour, I don't think.
I know I'm a Man U fan, and I know at the start of the season, I would definitely call in Ollie's name, and I wanted him to sign Pochettino because I thought he'd have been a good fit for United. But
you don't know. Like, Pochettino could come in and United could be top of the table now. It's all ifs and buts and maybes. It's the joy of it. You feel that if United are going to push this season, this year is definitely much the year in which they're going to have to do it, because I can't see Liverpool having those issues that they have next year, because surely they'll get those injured players back.
Yeah, for sure. I think Man United need more depth. Just final question from me. Over the years, I would say, as a broadcast journalist, all the experiences you've had, what's the main lesson you've learned?
It's not about you. I think it's a very good piece of advice that I had when I was a lot younger. I think it's when I started Real Madrid, and it's not about you. Nobody cares about you as a presenter or a journalist. They care about the person that you're talking to. Your role is to get the best out of them, not to turn the focus all about you. So if you're doing a show, you are basically there to drive the bus, to welcome everybody in, to get the discussion going, to make it as interesting as possible, and get out. Don't try and make yourself the star of the show.
Great piece of advice. Joe, anything else to add? Or?
I feel like the La Liga doesn't have the appeal like it does anymore.
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? It always used to be kind of the golden league. Certainly when I was there, Ronaldinho, Samuel Eto'o, Lionel Messi, David Villa, Thierry Henry, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, all at Barcelona, and then all the stars that we were talking about before. And now, obviously, Barcelona have got Griezmann, Messi, Dembele, but not quite that same sort of star power. And Real Madrid have dropped off a lot with regards to the global brand and appealing to people who may not necessarily be interested in Spain, but because of the big signings, Cristiano Ronaldo, of course, being the perfect example of that, got them interested in La Liga.
Yeah, just a question on Ronaldo. Who do you think's better, Ronaldo or Messi, if you want to give an answer?
So I'd go Messi. I think Messi overall, just because his style and his longevity, it's really difficult, isn't it? But I'd go Messi. Yeah, I would go Lionel Messi.
I think more enjoyable to watch is definitely Messi. Definitely.
Yeah, I think but you can only admire what Cristiano Ronaldo has done, and I think it's very difficult to compare them. But I just think Messi overall, some of the things that he does, I'm such a fan of seeing someone dribble with the ball. And when he was off and when he's at top speed and when he's at his best, yeah, he's an extraordinary player.
It's amazing how sort of Ronaldo was still going at his age, isn't it? Like how he's taking care of his body.
He's just stubborn, isn't he? He just always wants to be. He always wants to be the best. And I think they both have played off each other brilliantly. You know, in that conversation that we've had so many times over the years, they have definitely helped motivate each other to get to these extraordinary levels of goal scoring.
100%. Just on another player that's played for Barcelona, Neymar. There's always talks of him potentially coming back to our league, even for Real Madrid. Could you ever see that sort of happening?
I don't think they can afford him. Like, the only people that can afford him at the moment is PSG. So I think we were talking about it on the show with Julien Laurent, and they're saying they're going to give him a 4-year contract on the same money that he's on. Nobody can afford that with the current financial climate, and especially for a player that is injury prone as he is, and at the age that he is. You know, if you got Erling Haaland or Neymar, you're taking Erling Haaland every single day now.
Yeah, definitely. It's crazy, isn't it? How like sort of transfer fees and wages have just gone skyrocketed over the years, and even like unproven talents, like 50 million now a play. It's crazy, isn't it?
Well, it's like 100 millions minimum, man.
I know. Look at Messi and look what the pay that he got, that contract that was leaked in El Mundo at the weekend. You know, €500 million over 4 years. That money is it's unbelievable. And it's interesting. Like, I speak to Stevie Nicol. You think when Stevie played for that Liverpool side, they won 5 league titles. Stevie was Football Writers Player of the Year, and you're gonna think, Stevie, you know, you should be rich and retired. How do you look at these modern footballers? And he goes, you've got to remember, when I was playing, the generation before us thought that we were overpaid. It's just part of it. It's kind of part of that cycle.
Yeah, definitely. When you think of it like that, that's a good point. Just on that, how do you think we can close them sort of high transfer fees and wage fees? Or do you think they can be closed? Like they can close that sort of gap?
I don't know how it's going to happen. Obviously Corona's going to have a massive hit on these transfer fees and the wages, and you know, our TV company's going to be willing to pay as much if we continue to have empty stadiums and everything forced like that. So I think it's going to be a tricky time. I think it's going to be very difficult. I think, as always, inevitably the teams at the top will be fine, but going down the lower divisions and reading the financial struggles that they're having, you'd be really concerned, wouldn't you, if you're a fan of a team in the lower leagues at the moment?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Just another thing as well on that sort of thing. Women's football as well. It's something I've done a little bit of a study on recently. The pay between the two.
Yeah.
Do you think that ever sort of closes the gap?
Well, it's a massive discussion over here at the moment, because the US women's team were suing the US Federation because they wanted equal pay to the men. And there are two sides to that argument, which I don't want to particularly get into, but women's soccer is so huge over here because they're winners, and America loves winners. So if you have a US women's game on, it will outrate a men's game, which is quite something, because the women have got this all this success behind them.
Yeah, Megan Rapinoe was just a massive star over America, isn't she? I can't really think off the top of my head.
Alex Morgan
as well. Like, many English sort of stars in England, like, but in America, there's a few names.
Well, Megan Rapinoe, of course, she is famous during the World Cup, and then speaking out against Trump, and Trump speaking out against her. That kind of put her up to a next level of fame. Alex Morgan as well, the celebrations with a cup of tea when she scored in the World Cup as well. Yeah, these women are real famous sports people over here.
Do you think the media has some sort of point that sort of part to play in that as well, like trying to sort of help close it, like with more coverage and stuff when you're looking into it?
I think what's tough for the UK to kind of break more women into that market with regards to trying to compete with ratings is the fact that there is so much football already going on. You're kind of trying to get into a saturated market. What would be ideal for the women is to win the World Cup. That would then put them on that pedestal, and then I think people would then follow them a lot closely, especially like the younger generation, the kids around. because you think of the Olympics, men or women, it doesn't matter. If you're a winner, then you are in the highest echelon of kind of sporting celebrities in the UK. And it's just getting to that winning way that I think will be the major breakthrough that kind of women's football needs.
Yeah, I agree. Some sort of major tournament.
Exactly.
Just a question. I don't think I've asked you this yet. Do you actually support a team? Obviously, you have to cover like Real Madrid and Southampton and stuff.
So I grew up in the 80s supporting Liverpool. So I grew up in Cornwall. There was no teams. So you were either Liverpool or Manchester United. So I was a Liverpool fan right away through school. And then when I went to uni in Southampton, I started to pay more attention to Southampton. Then I got the job there, and we just full on 100% committed to Southampton as a fan. And then I moved to Spain, obviously, in 2005. And it was difficult to follow Saints because that's when they were going through all their rubbish. And then obviously I was covering Real Madrid more. So Real Madrid became my team. And now, do you know my team now is England over everyone, which I know is a bit of a cop-out, but there isn't a club team, a little bit of Real Madrid, a little bit of Southampton. But if the game is on, or I can go out and do something with the kids and I don't have to watch it, I'll go out and do something with the family as opposed to being obsessed and having to watch every game. And that's the one downside to this career, is that it does take away your passion for a sport as a hobby a little bit. It's very difficult to just sit down and enjoy a match now, because you're kind of compelled to watch so much for work that it isn't as relaxing. So I'd much prefer now to watch a cricket match, for example, than I would a football match that I don't necessarily need to watch. That makes sense.
You sort of feel like obligated to like tweet about it, if you know what I mean. You're watching a game, it's even just randomly like a game of football. Sometimes I just feel like I'm coming up and stuff, just feel obligated to tweet about it sometimes. I don't know if that's ever for you.
No, man, I don't tweet a lot because I always think what am I gaining from this? What am I gaining from and I'm obviously at a different stage of my broadcasting career than you guys, and you're still maybe using social media to gain a reputation. But for me, it's just hassle. Like you could say something could be misconstrued, say it the wrong way. People are shouting at you. So I don't actually tweet. I will do, okay, I do a bit. But compared to some of my colleagues, yeah, I don't tweet that much.
Fair enough. It's sort of an escape in it as well when you come in, when you're doing obviously your work and stuff. You want to just chill out, don't you, instead of doing work, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, I watch mate. You think my Saturdays, you know, I'm watching Premier League, Bundesliga, Serie A, La Liga. I've got all these games going on all over the house. So then my days off. So it's Chelsea Spurs today. I won't watch that game. I'll watch the highlights later, because I prefer to pick the boys up from school and then go and have dinner with them somewhere like that. Do you know what I mean? So it's just kind of trying to prioritize things, because there's so much soccer in my life that sometimes you've got to take a step back.
That's another question. No, is it weird? Like, was it weird at first, like saying soccer? Like, obviously you growing up with it to being able to football and stuff.
Yeah. It took a little bit to get used to, but now it's kind of natural part of the vernacular. And then UK people shout me, "Oh my God, why are you calling it soccer? What's wrong with you? It's football." And I'm like, "Well, what's the show on Saturday called on Sky Sports? You know, it's just soccer. It's football. People aren't idiots. You know, they know exactly what you're talking about. It just so happens I'm in America and it's called soccer."
Would you say you've sort of achieved it all, and that what you planned out to do and stuff when you was doing
no. Like my plan was to be the host of Match of the Day. That was kind of my ultimate goal, which isn't going to happen now, because Gary Lineker's going to do it till he's 90, I think. And I think, and I don't know if I'd move back to do it even, which is interesting. Yeah, which is something I don't think we'll have to worry about. Oh my God, yeah. If I could do this for the next 30 years, then I'd be so happy, because it is such a fun, fulfilling job to do.
A lot of people dream of it, living in America and doing what they love, and you're living that.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. I really do 100% appreciate my job, and I think that makes you continue to strive to be better at it, because like we were saying right at the start, you know, you say one stupid thing, Twitter picks it up, boom, you're off. And then there's 100,000 people at the door wanting to come in and do the job. So you've just got to make sure that you're on it every single day.
It really is like a cutthroat of business, isn't it? Like what, like even when you've seen like these things where big journalists stuff, they made mistakes. I remember in England, this journalist posted this sort of, I think it was like sort of controversially racist post, and he was just done then, sacked completely, done like.
You've just got to. Well, you've got to think, and I think about it a lot when I'm about to send a tweet. There's so many tweets I've deleted over the years. It's like, what am I gaining from this? You know, you're gaining nothing. You know, my contract at ESPN doesn't rely on me writing this tweet or getting 1,000 likes for a tweet that may get me into a lot of trouble. So why bother doing it? And you've got to remember, like our show. So on Sunday, I do a live show from 5 until 6:30, covering all the leagues, pretty much, all the big leagues all across the world. That is live. It is unscripted. So you have to make sure you don't say anything stupid, just even a stupid little aside comment that you would make to a mate, but that could be misconstrued as being sexist or xenophobic or racist or anything. So you've got to be on it all the time. And that's not to say off air I'm horribly racist, xenophobic or sexist, but you've just got to be so careful with what you say, and especially with my manner and the way in which I present. You know, I'm always pushing people, always getting them to that line, always trying to wind them up. But I've got to be so aware and so careful of not overstepping that line and getting myself into trouble.
Would you say that's another thing as well you learn from the BBC radio? Because obviously on there as well you learn, that's all live as well. Like you can't say like certain things and stuff. That was another beneficial part of working there, I guess.
Yeah, and again, it's you thinking, right, what am I gaining by making this joke on air or making this comment or saying this about this person? Nothing. You're gaining absolutely nothing by doing it. So don't do it. But it's all internal as you're going, as you're developing, as you're gaining more experience in broadcasting.
Definitely. Just a final one from me. So over the years, done all the broadcast journalism, got all this experience. If someone was to ask you now, a young 14-year-old, say, looking to get into broadcast journalism, what's one thing I can do to be successful in this? What would you say to him?
You just got to knock on doors, man. Like I said, you just go to the local radio station and say, look, I'll do anything. I'll make tea. I'll make coffee. When I was working there, when I was 15, we obviously didn't have computers to record audio. We would use live tape. So at the start of every package that a news report would put together, there would be yellow leader, so yellow tape, and then at the end, red tape. So then whoever was DJing, presenting, knew when this package was going to end. So reel to reel, like 3 minutes. You know, my job was to cut up the red and the yellow leader and tape the tape back together so it could then be recycled for the next week. So I'd spend hours every week cutting this up with a razor blade, with tape, sticking it all together. And, you know, crappy job, but you're in the door, you know, you're at the BBC, you're meeting people, you're talking to people. So that's what you need to do. And then if you get a week's work experience, if you get in, talk to people, make sure people know you, go for a drink, go and get drunk with someone, you know, really immerse yourself in that environment, because your name will then stick. You're not just another person on the conveyor belt, and work experience people coming through the door. Make sure that they know who you are, but then balance. Don't be a dick about it. Don't always be in everybody's face, but just try and garner a relationship with some of these people, because that is really going to help you in the future.
Would you agree with the statement, persistence, not pushy in journalism?
Yeah, it's tough. It's really tough though, because how do you decipher that line? You know, I have emails from people who are asking for advice on what can I do now? How can I do this? And like, there's only so much that I can do for you. And most of it is just kind of telling you my story and then just seeing what you can use from that to go forward. And then people will send me show reels, and then I would more than happy to give them advice about what you need to do in a show reel, what you need to take out from what people are saying. But then there's other people. For example, when I was at Madrid, we had castings for new presenters, and it'd be Reshman, who's now on BBC, came out for a casting and she got the job, and another guy didn't. And I remember him writing to us saying, I don't believe there was a job in the first place, because if there was, I would have got it. And you're thinking, well, why? Why are you causing a fight? Who's to say that maybe Reshman didn't accept it and you were next on the list? but you feel like you need to, for your ego, come out and have a go at us, which means you are completely off our list if any future opportunities come up.
Exactly. You don't want to burn bridges.
Would you say like experience is key then in broadcasting and journalism?
Yeah, completely. You know, the experience makes you better at what you do. You know, you learn. I've been doing it for what 25 years, and you're still learning. You're still learning every day what not to do. What I won't do that this time. And like one of the main things I learned in all of this is just keep it simple. Just ask the question. You know, you don't need long rambling. Well, 78% of your shots have been off target this season. 3% of it. You know, shut up. Shut up. Why do you think you're not scoring as many goals as you were last year? Bang. Right. Okay, good. Let's get into the conversation straight away and just say all of this nonsense. Like you watch these press conferences with Boris Johnson and the COVID, the question's like 90 seconds long. What are you doing, you idiots? Just get to the point and ask the question. That's what you're there for. Going back to my other point, it's not about you. It's about your subject.
Brilliant, definitely. Just this will be a final thing. I appreciate the time.
That's all right.
If anyone's done this before, can you critique and compliment us on this podcast now and what we did well and what we did wrong?
No, you did really good, guys. I think it's something you need to work as with regard to who asks what question. I think sometimes you're talking over each other a little bit, and that's something that you can develop. But that's difficult to do because you're obviously in different rooms. If you were together, then you could do it a lot easily. But no, it's exactly what you should be doing. It's exactly where you should be. And just from doing interviews week in, week out, you're inevitably going to get a lot better at them. Because what stage are you? You're at uni?
Second year at college now, and then going to uni next year.
Fantastic. Hey, very cool. So you're way ahead of wherever I was, you know, at uni and that sort of stuff, with regards to getting some stuff together and kind of using that as experience going forward. Because it's strange, just like talking like you're doing now and asking questions can only help you going forward. You know, all of this can only increase your experience and your hireability kind of in the future down the line.
Definitely. Honestly, I appreciate the time. I've actually loved this. I really have.
Yeah.
It's been a blast. Honestly, thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it.
Been fantastic.
That's all right. That's okay. I'm sorry for swearing. I was then thinking.
No problem. It makes it funnier.
Yeah, it makes it better.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Appreciate that.